Joined us. We are in Woodmead today, just north of Johannesburg, and this is the venue for the latest in the series of New Age business briefings brought to you by the SABC and today sponsored by Transnet. And we're taking a look at the issue of xenophobia. You would have seen it, the word doing the rounds in our newspapers recently. We've seen shops owned by foreign nationals being targeted around Pretoria and also in South Johannesburg, areas such as Rosettenville. This is the latest spike. We've seen these incidents before, as far back as 2008, and some would even say that it's been happening on a lower level even before that. And we're starting to explore that. Is it just xenophobia? Is it just a fear and a dislike or a hatred of foreign nationals, or are there socio-economic contributing factors to this equation? Our panelists are busy introducing the topic to us, and it's my great pleasure now to ask Mr. Bafor, who's the chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum. So in many ways, as the diaspora, you are representing those foreign nationals that have come into South Africa for one reason or another. When you see these attacks happening, Mr. Apleni says that South Africa is not xenophobic and that there's a deeper issue going on here. Is that what you see?
Look, Peter, I think the majority of South Africans are not xenophobic. But the reality is that we have a few people who don't want to see somebody who's from another country. And that's the reality. Mm-hmm. If you go to hospitals, if you go to schools, to the police, to many places, you have a feeling that because this person realizes you're not South African, the treatment that you're having or you're facing is really different. In the African Diaspora Forum, you might think that is a migrant organization. It's not. We're working with thousands of South Africans who are concerned about the situation and who want to offer their time and their resources to protect the migrants who are living here. And we want to use this opportunity to thank the thousands of South African citizens who are doing that.
So you're suggesting that whilst sometimes we're focused on the attacks and the physical violence, that the xenophobia may be happening just in the way that people are being treated in their daily interactions at various points?
Yes, I mean, you see, this issue is, unfortunately, is always debated whenever we have an outbreak. But that's why I fully agree with my sister Engi when she says we should always work on social cohesion.
Okay.
South Africa, for coming from so far, where people were living in isolation, where people were living just because of the color of their skin, and now a new phenomenon, which is you have to associate yourself with people who are coming from another country. I think there is some work to be done. Unfortunately, we only talk about social cohesion when we want our speeches to look good.
Okay.
We write it down. But social cohesion should be activities in our different communities which are run on daily basis to change the mindset of a few people who don't want to associate themselves, who find that all the social ills is because of somebody coming from another country. But our challenges and the reality that we are living is how people have decent houses, people have clean water, electricity, how they send their children to school. Those are the basic issues that we should be talking about.
Okay.
When you have leaders like the mayor of Johannesburg, who think that because I don't know how to deliver to my community which elected me into power, then I can shift the focus. Blame scapegoating, blame the migrant community so that people forget that they have the basic needs to focus on. And then I can use that to hide myself. And that is completely out of order.
Okay.
We are calling upon leaders to be more responsible and know what they're saying. Look, in Rosettenville, the many houses that people burned down, the many cars that people burned down. Yes, maybe we didn't analyze, but these are also assets of South African citizens that we burned down. And for the mayor now locking himself and entertaining what he's saying and doesn't want to retract it and be arrogant, doesn't assist the community. The community elected you because they want you to change something.
Didn't the mayor issue a statement, though, recently, I think a couple of days ago?
The statement is a piece of paper. Unfortunately, maybe the person in the township who was watching TV didn't read your statement.
Okay.
So be careful before you do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Mayor Sarah, your Foundation of Human Rights, some people would say that we work, kind of do the same thing as the South African Human Rights Commission, but I know that you're under the auspices of the Department of Justice in many ways, and that's kind of where your origins come through. You're with the migrant program. So how does this conversation kind of gel in your environment?
Thank you, Peter. Persons affected by issues of race and xenophobia, who are migrants and refugees, which are the topic of the day, are a vulnerable group. At the Foundation for Human Rights, we broadly support a range of initiatives to promote constitutional rights, awareness, and education. Rightly so, Peter, you indicated that after we entered the democratic era, we came with the Constitution in 1996, and 2 years later with the Refugees Act, recognizing that people have always been in migration. So as a country, we wanted to legislate that. The preamble, in particular, of the Constitution in 1996 indicates that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And rightly so, the DG indicated that all people living in South Africa have all the rights except the right to vote. What we do on a daily basis is to support activities that promote local integration against the encampment policy. What it means in practice is activities of social cohesion, promoting constitutional rights awareness, where people engage on reading their own reality and reflecting on it using the legislation at hand. Of course, South Africa has also ratified one of the most important conventions, which allows refugees to live in South Africa and access all the rights, or people in migration access all the rights that we have as human beings, because we have those basic inherent rights, the right to dignity, the right to equality, which in our Bill of Rights in Section 9, it's quite clear that no one can discriminate another person on the basis of language, ethnic origin, or look. So our work focuses more on creating awareness and doing popular education activities so that people can be aware that the country we live in is not in isolation. In fact, what we need is a Pan-African education approach, which begins to unpack the fact that the country, the continent that we have, before the Berlin Conference, it was one continent with no borders. So we don't cross seas when we go to Zimbabwe or Mozambique or Cameroon. It's one continent, is an African continent. And in fact, this is the most important continent where life originated, where all all humanity originated. And because we are migratory species, then we started moving out of the continent and lived elsewhere. So we share one identity and we share one race, and it's our human race.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. And I'm actually looking forward to Mayor Angie. I know the South African Human Rights Commission commissioned an investigation after 2008. You came up with recommendations, and I'm just wondering how many of those recommendations have been followed through, and where we at. DG, the Lindela judgment, how far have we moved from that? Just to get a sense of where we are post some of those issues and what it means going forward. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to start getting your questions at home. Hashtag TNA BizBrief at Morning Live SABC. And we'll see you right after this as we hear some questions from the audience that are here. See you just now.